Did you know that one of the greatest empires in world history, an empire that once ruled over 70 million people, eventually collapsed into chaos? But what really caused the fall of the Roman Empire?
If you enjoy stories like this, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit like or subscribe. I'd also love to know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Drop a comment below. I'm so curious to see how far this video will reach. Thank you so much.
Tonight, we'll unravel the mystery behind Rome's downfall. Was it a slow internal decay, or did a single catastrophic event trigger its collapse? Was the empire simply too large to survive, or was it plagued by political corruption, civil war, and invasions it could no longer stop? And what about the barbarians? Did they really sack Rome? Or is that just what we've always been told? Let's travel back through centuries of glory, power, betrayal, and decline, and uncover the true story behind the fall of the Roman Empire. Rome wasn't always the colossal empire we think of. It began as a small city-state founded in 753 BC, with myths surrounding its origins, most famously the story of Romulus and Remus.
In the early centuries, Rome was a monarchy, but after the overthrow of its last king, the Roman Republic was born in 509 BC. The Roman Republic became known for its system of checks and balances, elected officials, and the Senate, concepts that would later influence the development of modern government. Rome's power grew through military expansion. The Punic Wars, fought against the powerful city-state of Carthage, cemented Rome's dominance in the Mediterranean. By the end of the 2nd century BC, Rome controlled an empire stretching from Spain to Egypt. But as Rome grew in power, so too did its internal struggles. The military elite became increasingly influential, and soon generals like Julius Caesar were more powerful than the Senate itself. The rise of Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, marked the beginning of the Pax Romana, a period of peace and prosperity that lasted for over 200 years. Under Augustus and his successors, Rome expanded its infrastructure, roads, aqueducts, and monumental buildings like the Colosseum, and the Roman Empire became the dominant force in the known world. Roman society flourished, with advances in law, philosophy, and arts. Roman citizenship was highly valued, and the empire's vast trading network spanned across Europe, Africa, and Asia. However, despite the era of peace, cracks were beginning to show under the surface. As the empire grew, it became more difficult to govern effectively. Rome's vastness created new challenges in communication and defense. Though Rome had almost 200 years of stability, by the end of the 2nd century, we see early signs of trouble brewing. The empire, though powerful, was starting to show its vulnerability to internal political struggles and economic pressures.
By the 2nd century AD, the Roman Empire was already showing signs of strain. Political instability, economic trouble, and military issues began to plague the empire. The power of the emperor became more centralized, but that came at the cost of corruption. Emperors like Commodus and Nero became infamous for their incompetence and cruelty. On top of political turmoil, the Roman military faced new challenges. The Roman legions, once the backbone of Roman expansion, began to lose their edge as they struggled to defend the ever-expanding borders. The empire's reliance on slave labor also caused economic stagnation. As fewer new conquests brought in wealth, the empire's economy stagnated and the gap between the rich and poor grew wider.
At the same time, the growth of Christianity, once a small, persecuted religion, began to have a significant influence on Roman society. This religious shift would later create tension, contributing to the empire's decline.
In 285 AD, Emperor Diocletian made a critical decision. He divided the empire into two parts, the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. The reasoning? The empire had simply become too large to govern effectively. The Eastern Empire, with its capital at Byzantium, later Constantinople, would go on to thrive for another 1,000 years as the Byzantine Empire. Meanwhile, the Western Empire began to weaken. This split didn't just create two separate empires. It created a rift that would become more significant as the Western Empire faced increasing pressure from both internal corruption and external invasion. Under Diocletian, the empire was further militarized with heavy reliance on mercenaries and soldiers who often had little loyalty to Rome. This would be a significant factor in the eventual fall of the West. While the East prospered, the West fell into political chaos, economic hardship and military failure, leading to its eventual collapse in 476 AD. By the 4th century, the Western Roman Empire faced a worsening economic situation. Inflation and heavy taxation to fund military campaigns drained the imperial treasury. The empire's agricultural base had become less productive and fewer people were paying taxes due to widespread poverty. The rich became more powerful and the middle class shrank. Meanwhile, the reliance on slave labor made innovation difficult. Social inequality was at an all-time high, with the elites becoming more insulated and the masses struggling to survive. To make matters worse, the empire began to face more frequent invasions along its borders, and the empire's military resources became stretched too thin to effectively defend all of its territories. Rome's internal weaknesses made it more vulnerable to attack, especially as tribes from outside the empire began to press on the empire's borders. As the empire struggled from within, the external pressure from barbarian tribes began to intensify. The Visigoths under Alaric sacked Rome in 410 AD, marking the first time the city had been taken in over 800 years. Soon after, the Vandals took their turn, sacking Rome in 455 AD, but the most famous invasion came in 476 AD, when the Germanic chieftain Odoacer deposed the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, effectively ending the Western Roman Empire. But were the barbarians really the sole cause of Rome's fall, or did Rome's internal weaknesses make it an easy target? Let's dive into the motivations of these tribes. The Visigoths, Vandals, and Huns weren't just mindless invaders, they were driven by economic needs, and their invasions were a response to the Roman Empire's inability to defend its vast borders. The Huns, led by Attila, played a major role in weakening Rome's defense systems as they pushed other barbarian groups into Roman territory. It was a domino effect. The deposition of Romulus Augustulus is traditionally considered the fall of the Western Roman Empire. But it wasn't a single event. It was the result of years of internal decay, external invasions, and political instability. While the Eastern Roman Empire lived on for another 1,000 years, the fall of the Western Roman Empire marks the end of a golden age. This final collapse left Europe in a period known as the Dark Ages, and it would take centuries for new empires to rise in its place. Let's not forget, the empire's collapse wasn't only a military failure, it was a reflection of the challenges posed by vast empires. As Rome's once well-organized system broke down, the resources to defend it became increasingly insufficient. Despite its fall, the legacy of the Roman Empire lives on. Roman law, government, and culture deeply influenced the medieval kingdoms and modern civilization. Rome's monumental architecture, like the Colosseum, remains a symbol of imperial might, while Latin, the language of the Romans, became the foundation for many modern languages. The Eastern Roman Empire, known as the Byzantine Empire, survived until 1453, preserving much of Rome's legacy and contributing to the development of Western Europe. The Renaissance, centuries later, was built on rediscovered Roman art, philosophy, and learning. The fall of the Roman Empire teaches us powerful lessons about the dangers of political instability, economic inequality, and military overreach. As the Romans once said, Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was destroyed over time. Can we avoid the same fate? Could any empire ever survive the pressures Rome faced? Or is this a universal cycle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into history. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the fall of the Roman Empire. We've explored the rise of one of the most powerful empires in history, the internal and external pressures it faced, and the eventual collapse that changed the course of the world. But of course, the story of Rome doesn't end here. The legacy of Rome, both in its triumphs and its failures, continues to influence our world today. From architecture and governance to language and law, its mark is all around us, even in ways we might not always realize. What do you think? Could another empire today avoid the same fate as Rome? Or is it just a matter of time before history repeats itself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more historical deep dives. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you never miss out on our next exploration of the past. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one where we'll uncover even more history's mysteries.